Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Orville, Season 2, Episode 12, Sanctuary. So, not only is this episode directed by Jonathan Frakes, the guy that played Riker, but it has so many cameos in it. Like, it's such a well-done episode. And it kind of shows off, like, Seth MacFarlane's love for music and everything. Like, it's impossible not to like this episode and everything it stands for. So, right off the top, the whole episode is about, like, female Moclans and how they're viewed by society. Which, they've kind of, like, they wrote themselves into a corner. So, an episode like this was bound to happen, where they're like, a female Moclan is born once every, like, 100 years or something. So, we know that's not true, because we've already seen at least 3 female Moclans already on the show. Like, including Clyden. So, already, no, they're more common than what you're leading on for. So, Moclans are on the Orville doing upgrades, and they're already, like, super secretive and everything. Marina Saturis makes an amazing appearance, the woman that played Counselor Troy in The Next Generation, which is great because Riker directed it, and then Troy plays Topa's teacher. So it's great to see the two together again. And she comments on how Topa treats female students different than male students. And it's kind of interesting to watch that whole family dynamic about, like, Bortus trying to say, like, Topa, you need to be respectful to everybody. Like, it doesn't matter if it's male, female, or whatever. Whereas Clyden is like, nope, females are weak, just treat them bad. So already, like, Clyden is so unlikable in this series. It's absolutely amazing. So after, like, the whole, like, anyways, doesn't matter. So, as we keep going, we realize that the 2 Moclans that are on board for the upgrades actually have a female child of their own. And they come up with this, like, story that they're going to Retepsia, or Retepsula, which is a great little reference to a previous alien we've already heard about, so that's great, to hide their infant female. So that way they're not forced to undergo that surgery like Topa was. They're not. They actually go into this nebula, and there's an entire planet of female Moclans. It's like this Amazon planet. I think they said there's like over 3,000 females on this planet. Obviously, females are not one every 100 years. If anything, they're like maybe 1 in 10. Still a minority, but still not one every 100 years. Not something that needs to be surgically altered. We see Havana, I think was her name again, the poet that we saw in the last episode where, like, Topa had to go under the surgery, and she actually made the appearance at the courtroom. So stuff like that is absolutely great. I love when they bring back past characters. The moment that I absolutely fell in love with this episode is her and Ed are on a shuttlecraft heading back to the Orville, and she's going through the music, and she's like, what is this? And she starts playing 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton. And he's like, oh yeah, this is just Dolly Parton. And then she's like, this is amazing. This is like the song for women to stand up to, where it's like, you're just a step on the workman's ladder. And it's great. Just her, like, so inspired by this one song. And she's like, I swear, that man is out to get me. And it's great. It's such a great scene. Once we start actually getting into the courtroom scene, this is where we start getting all these cameos. Like, the chairman is played by F. Murray Abraham, who we saw in Star Trek Insurrection. Tony Todd plays one of the Moclans, who played Worf's brother, and he was also in Deep Space Nine as Future Jake, stuff like that. And then they just talk about, like, turning a blind eye to all of the other stuff, all of the females and stuff like that. This is the first episode we actually see all of the admirals. Like, we see Victor Garber, we see Ted Danson, we see Ron Canada, we see Kelly Hugh. Like, all of these characters that have had their single episodes finally come together. Like, all of these people come together, and this is the first time, so this is a big step. And this is the moment where, like, she actually starts quoting Dolly Parton, and when the Admiral Halsey and Ed just look at each other, and Ed's like, oh, this is gonna be my fault right here, that she's quoting Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 as, like, the anthem for women power, which, I mean, it's great. Like, if you had to pick a song, there's definitely worse options right there. I think the point that really comes to the point for me, I've said before, like when Clyden is first introduced in the series, he's fine. Like he's no big deal. It's Bortus's mate, whatever. Slowly throughout the series, he has become so unlikable. Like you can't even blame Bortus for turning to the holodeck to get away from him, where he forces their child to have a sex change. He like tries to divorce Bortus by stabbing him in the chest. Like everything Bortus does, he's the one that like tried to turn in the other Moclan for being straight. God, what else did he do? Like every chance Clyden has, like Clyden is just this unlikable character. And so to watch Clyden, like in the final scene where Clyden walks up and starts talking to Bortus, and Bortus is like, "You didn't greet Commander Grayson." And Clyden is like, "Okay." And Bortus is like, "That's because you're prejudiced and you're rude and you need to fuck off." Is basically what he says to him. And just he talks about how he has such a negative viewpoint against women because Clyden does not care about this female planet. He forced his own child to have a sex change because he doesn't like women. And to actually watch Bortus like come step forward and say, "Yes, I'm a Moclan. Yes, I support these female rights," is such a great moment. Like that ending scene where Bortus says, like, if you're going to be with me, you need to support everybody. Like you can't just look at how our planet is, because guess what? We're not the only planet out there. It kind of goes back to the astrology episode where like they if you're born under a certain astrology symbol, you get put into a concentration camp. And like the guy's like, you live amongst the stars. How do you not do that? Like it's kind of like that. Bortus comes from an all-male society. I get it, but when you start looking at all of these other planets, like you need to start looking at your own society. And it's such a well done episode. I really, really enjoy this one. So for those who have seen it, what did you guys think? Let me know, and I will see you guys next time for tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.